Namaste. We'll discuss today regarding in construction practice in continuation of yesterday's class. So, before going to syllabus class, uh, as a habit, we'll see our syllabus. So, yesterday we have completed the component parts of a building and their functions. So, and classification of buildings according to the NBC National Building Code we have done, but the detailed uh, uh, explanation of classification of buildings we are not yet done yesterday. So we'll concentrate on that, and from that we'll start our class, today's class, right? So this is what I'm going to tell. Components of building already completed. Classification of buildings and soil explorations and site investigations, and various methods of site investigations as per National Building Code, and describe different types of foundations. This is our today's target. Uh, yeah. Yeah, yesterday what we have seen is the buildings are classified into around nine types, right? Residential buildings, educational buildings, institutional buildings, assembly buildings, business buildings, mercantile buildings, industrial buildings, storage buildings, hazardous buildings like this. So we have already seen different buildings. So these buildings again classified into further like group A buildings. If you see group A building as a residential buildings, and group B it is educational buildings, and group C institutional buildings, group D assembly buildings, group E business buildings, group F mercantile buildings, group G um, hazardous and storage buildings, hazardous buildings. So these are again classified into further. So the definitions we have completed last class. So we'll see how these buildings are further classified. Let us see this one. Yeah, this is a classification of buildings. So article. See, buildings are classified into group A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, like this. Okay, but up to J we are studying here. This is garage utilities are not at all required. Up to J we are studying, right? So see here, based on the occupancy or based on the utility, so buildings are classified like this. See, group A buildings, residential buildings, further classified into group A1, A2, A3, A4, and A5. See, means residential buildings meant for uh, accommodation purpose for the human beings. So these may be with cooking or without cooking, with bedding or without grouping bedding, or group sleeping facilities like it. See, if A1 building is single family dwelling, these shall include any building, row type or semi-detached or detached from neighboring buildings by distances required by this code, and having independent access to the plot, which is used as a private dwelling by members of a single family. This is A1 group A1 building. Group A2 is two family dwelling. Dwelling means staying together. These buildings, these shall include any building, row type or semi-detached or detached from neighboring buildings by distances required by this code, and having shared or independent access for two families, and having facilities of living, cooking, bathroom facilities, and independent of each other. Means more than one family it is having, right? That is two families it is if staying together and with the independent facilities, that is group A2 buildings. Group A3 residential buildings are flats or apartments. They shall include any building or portion thereof which is provided for more than two families, having facilities of living, cooking, bathroom facilities independent of each other, right? So here, these are main criteria to describe different building, like see apartments in cities. So there are more than two families are staying in one apartment, or they are having different flats, and they are having separate living, cooking, bathroom facilities independent to each other. These are A3 buildings. A4 buildings is mess, boarding houses, dormitories, hotels. These may not have cooking facilities. These shall include any building of portion thereof in which sleeping, living accommodations and bathrooms are provided for groups, related, unrelated persons, right, with or without common dining and or facilities, and with common cooking under the single management of control. So mainly hostels, dormitories, right? So hotels, boardings, like, so even if you take a hotel, so there is a cafeteria at one place. That cafeteria will provide food for all uh, uh, occupants who are living in that hotel, like, right, there is common cooking facilities, right? So the common cooking facility is group A4. And A5 buildings, hotels and lodgings, they shall include any building portion thereof, group of buildings under the single management in which sleeping and living accommodation, bathroom facilities are provided with or without dining facilities, but without cooking facilities for adult individuals is provided for hire or transient or permanent basis, right? These are group A5 buildings. Means residential buildings further classified into five types: group A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, right? And next one is B, that is educational buildings. Educational buildings, group B buildings. These are this occupancy type shall include any building or portion thereof in which education, training, and care are provided for children or adults. This occupancy is again further subdivided into B1, B2, B3, three types. B1 is educational facilities up to higher secondary level. B2 is facilities for training and above secondary levels. And B3 is preschool facilities, right? So we see here, these shall include any building or portion thereof used for purposes involving assembly for instruction, education, recreation of more than six persons on regular basis to fulfill the requirement of an academic curriculum approved by the government up to HSC, right, up to 12th class. And group B2, they shall include any building of portion thereof used for purposes involving assembly for instruction, education, training, recreation more than six persons, which is not covered by occupancy 1 and B1, right? So means training center, coaching centers. These shall be any building of portion that used for purpose involving care, recreation, and education for children more than six in number who have not yet reached at the age to attend the schools, means preschools, right? So LKG, UKG, nursery, that buildings, right? So educational buildings again further subdivided into three. Next, group C, institutional buildings, right? These are subdivided into five types. See, these are classified as the buildings classified under this occupancy shall include those used for purpose of institutional care of occupants, such as detention for correctional or penal purposes, means jails, right? Medical or nursing care, suffering from illness or infertility due to mental conditions, mental hospitals, or accommodation of children or minor, where the parent's personal liberty of the inmate is restricted. The buildings shall ordinarily provide accommodation for sleeping, dining, and other provisions approved by the authority for the occupants. This occupancy shall be subdivided into five types. First is institutional care for children. Second is custodial institution for physically capable adults. Next, third is custodial institution for the incapable adults. Penal and mental institution for children. Penal and mental institutions for adults. Right. So five types. See, first one, they shall include any building of portion thereof group of building under single management, right, as an institution for the full-time care of children minor, which providing accommodation, sleeping, dining and other provisions by the authority for more than 6 children, right. Next, custodial institutions for physically handicapped means used for the, these buildings are used for purpose of full-time care and custody of adult mentally disabled persons but physically capable to responding to emergency, right. And third one is used for purpose to fill the time care and custodian physically and mentally incapable persons, right. So this is third cut. Fourth one is used for housing of children under restraint who are detained for penal and corrective purposes in which personal liberty of the inmates is restricted. So they are restricted not to go, not to see, not to play like that, right. So next one, fifth one is used for housing purposes under restraint who are detained for penal and corrective actions which are which personal liberty of the inmates is again restricted. This is jails or prisons, right. And fourth one is group 4, healthcare facilities, right. Buildings in this occupancy group shall include um, those purposes, medical care, diagnostic facilities, treatment, personal suffering from physical and discomfort in which the sleeping accommodation may not be provided, right. First one is normal medical facilities. These shall include under single management which essential medical facilities having nursery, surgery, emergency, casualty treatment, like, right. So next, emergency medical services is facilitate surgery, emergency treatments, general and very big type hospitals, like. So this type of shall be equipped with a designated to handle the post-disaster energy emergency by construction of the required to remain operational during the after disaster also, right. Next, business buildings. Business buildings are further divided into three. These shall include any building of portion thereof used for any business transaction other than mercantile. So this occupancy shall be subdivided into three. One is office, research and testing laboratories, and essential services. Office means used for the paperwork documentation only, only display of samples and products, not for direct sale, maintaining accounts, records, administrative consulting services, banking activities for business purposes, like this. And research and testing laboratories. So these are used for research and establishment of test laboratory involving hazardous material within the limit of exemption quantity and permitted in this code, means like corona testing, medicine manufacturing come under the CE2 group, right. Essential services used for purpose of providing emergency services and utilities which are required to remain operational during and after the disaster of the emergency conditions. These are the group E buildings. Next, group F buildings. So mercantile buildings. These are shall include any building or portion thereof group of buildings which is used for display and sale of merchandise which occupy as follows. And these can be other further subdivided into three. One is small shops and market, large shops and market, and refilling stations, like see. These are shall include any building or portion thereof with an area divided into and not exceeding 300 square meters. That is class 1, right. And if area is more than 300 square meters, that is class 2, right. And these include any building or portion used for repairing and maintenance of right. They shall include any building or portion there used for providing refilling and maintenance without repair services for automobiles which is moderately hazardous in nature. These are the refilling stations. Next, G is industrial buildings. Buildings under this occupancy shall be subdivided on the basis of hazardous potential of the contents and the process of the industry. The hazard shall generally mean the relative danger of the start of fire and rapidity of its spread. The danger of smoke gases generated that pose a potential threat to the safety of the occupants of the building unless areas with different degrees of hazardous are effectively segregated and separated in accordance with the provision of this code, and the most hazardous area in the building shall govern its classification. This occupancy shall also include the facilities of for public utility services and at the producer or distributor end that deals with the generation and distribution of utility services. Any such building of portion thereof which is not using hazardous material quantified and categorized in this occupancy, right? Next is G1. Again, you can say low hazardous, moderate hazardous, right? So low hazardous means they shall include a building which can be contents of low consumption and process conducted therein area of such low hazardous nature and danger in self ignition or self propagation of fire and non-existence. The only danger being an onset of fire from external sources, right? And high moderate hazardous industry means moderately consumable industrial uh, process conducted they are able to give rise to fire which will spread with moderately, right? Next, hazardous storage buildings, like HS storage buildings. So buildings under this category, primary storage of sheltering goods, warehouses, merchandises, vehicles, spare parts, animals, these are great. Low fire risk storage and moderate fire risk, storages. Next is assembly buildings. Assembly buildings further classified into four categories like I1, I2, I3 and I4. See, if you see buildings under this occupancy group shall include any building or portion thereof in which a group of people congregate or assemble for recreation, amusement, social, religious, political, cultural, travel, similar purposes. This is again subdivided into large assembly with fixed seats. Yes, these buildings, even I1 buildings are therefore for assembly in space provided with fixed seats for 1,000 or more persons. Right. This a small assembly means less than 1,000 in a space. Right. Occupants I2. Then I3, occupancy, this occupancy type shall include any building or portion thereof for assembly in a space in which there are no fixed seats, which may or may not be provided with a legitimate stage or theatrical accessories in which accommodation for 300 or more than that passes, right? And small assemblies are less than 300 persons, right? And next is fifth one is sports facilities. So occupancy shall type shall include any building or portion thereof meant for assembly of spectators for recreational and amusement purpose mainly related to sports. These are I. And hazardous buildings, these are any building used for used as a storage with hazardous material in excess of exemption quantity defined in above, and hazardous amount of means like explosive building, hazardous buildings, chemical hazardous, biological, radiation, right? So like if you these are used for storage and handling, processing and manufacturing of explosive materials and products. This is J1. And if used for highly toxic or corrosive, poisonous chemical storage, that can be J2. And like handling of harmful biological threat and manufacturing of harmful biological materials with the J3, and handling and process of manufacturing of materials and products that use for nuclear and radioactive process in which the risk of radioactive contamination is exist, that is called J4, right? And a garage and a parking garage, private garage. This is not in our syllabus. Anyway, these are also the utility type, miscellaneous, special structure, like fence tanks and towers, mixed occupancy, right? These are the different classifications of uh, buildings as per National Building Code, you can say, it based on their occupancy, right? So this is the National Building Code what I'm reading here. These are some of regulations which are further given. Height of the building, measurements of the building, what will be the different sizes, light, requirement of different buildings I have given. Right. It's a good paper which is presented by someone. Yeah. This is about classification of buildings, what we have uh, we discussed in detail, right? Next, next topic is soil investigation. So, an engineer must possess reasonably accurate information about soil condition, its arrangement, strength, and physical properties before designing a foundation. The field and laboratory investigations are required to get the essential information is also known as soil investigation. So we have to be known the different properties of the soil before going to construction of a foundation. Why? Because all loads which are coming on the building, like live loads, dead loads, any loads, wind loads, snow loads, earthquake loads, all loads are transmitting to the foundation, and that loads for foundation is transmitting the same loads to the ground. So if ground is weak, there is a possibility of settlement of a building. So foundation should be strong. For that purpose we used to uh, calculate the soil bearing capacity of the soil. For that purpose we will do different soil explorations, you can say already, or soil investigations or soil explorations at different intervals and different depths. So depending on the type of foundation, right, type of footing, right? So if we here the objectives of soil investigation is to know the type of the soil and thickness of different strata existing below the ground level, to know the physical and shear properties of different strata underlying below ground level, and to assign the suitable safe bearing capacity of the underlying soil, and to determine to determine the depth of the foundation which we can go there. And based on the depth of the foundation also we can assess the type of building or height of the building also, to know the depth of underground water table and its fluctuations also we'll see, and to know the location of the soft and hard rock below ground level we have to check, and to select safe and most economical type of footing, which footing can be suitable for that soil, and to make the allowances for the likely settlement of foundation, how much settlement can be permissible, to know the existence of any cavities, faults, and weakness of underlying rock or soil it is there. So for this purpose we are conducting soil explorations or soil investigations. So various methods of soil investigations are listed here. Open, sorry, these are the open pit test, boring, geophysical methods, subsurface soundings. Open test pit means just excavating a pit on the alignment, like if you constructing a metro line, or you are constructing a bridge. So along the length, along the longitudinal section of the alignment, we are taking some pits to know the different soil conditions or whether any utilities are falling on that alignment. For that purpose, we used to make open pits, right? Open pit uh, excavation, that is called a trial trenches. Also, we are called trial pits. Also, we call that one, right? So just digging the trench and taking the uh, different uh, properties of the soil, right, or different details of the soil. For that purpose, we used to open open pit method. Here is the different types of soil foundations explained here. Yeah, this is about different types of soil investigations. Like first is open test pit means trial pit. Next, different if you are if you want to go further deeper into the soil, you have to do borings. Means there are tube borings, auger borings, wash borings, percussion borings, diamond boring, rotary boring. These are different types of borings. Means penetrating some machines into the soil. Geophysical methods and subsurface methods means the without digging also we can see the subsurface soil properties. Test pit, these are generally called as a trial pit also. These are excavated for the uh, to determine or to know the further any utilities are coming, and utilities means telephonic line, maybe sewerage line, water line, or any utilities are coming, or you can also see the different state of soil also, right? These trial pits are can be used for investigating for all types of soils. The rectangular pit is excavated at the site along the alignment of the different construction, whatever you are going to, if you are going to construct a road, bridge, or metro flavor, right? So pit is excavated at the site, and disturbed or undisturbed samples are collected at different levels. The method is suitable up to a depth of 3 meters. The rectangle may be 9 meter by 9 feet, means 3 meter by 2 meter by 3 meter, like that. So the greater depth over 5 meters and below groundwater tables, the lateral support of the soil becomes very difficult. So up to 3 meter only these test pits are suitable. So generally, one test pit should excavated for every 100 square meters of area. For example, for Hyderabad Metro project, uh, at every at the location of every pillar, means every abutment, or every pier, under the every pier, it has been taken as a test pit, right? So this is a typical invest type of investigation, not for all suitable for all areas where rock or boulders are encountered after for some excavation. See here, this is around 3 meters depth, right? Sand with gravel, coarse sand, sandy soil, clay, right? So typical cross section of a trial pit, right? Test pit. Next is borings. To explore subsoil strata from deeper layers, it is usual practice to drill boreholes during different method, as mentioned below: auger boring, wash boring, percussion borings. Auger borings means augers consists of a metallic rod with a handle at the top, are manually driven or machine driven, and a driving head at the bottom. It is a primitive method for making holes in the ground by drilling manually. Generally, augers are employed in cohesive and other soft soils above water table. Although hand auger can be used for drilling holes up to a depth of 30 meters, but commonly they are not used beyond the depth of 5 meters. Right. Types of augers, you can see the figure. This is a post hole auger. This is a helical auger. Generally, we are using in a site is a helical augers we are using, right? So auger boring, portable power driven helical augers are available in diameter ranging from 75 to 300 These are in common use for drilling deeper holes in soils, having sufficient cohesion to prevent caving as the material is removed. Advantages of auger boring is it is simple, light, inexpensive, and flexible equipment. Small diameter to large diameter holes can be made. It is very efficient in medium, soft, and soft cohesive soils, but more moist, cohesionless soils with some apparent cohesion, right? And soil removed by the auger, though considerably disturbed, generally suitable for physical identification of the soils. Determination of free groundwater table is water level is possible. Disadvantages of auger boring is it is not well suited for in every hard or cemented soils. Very soft soils and fully saturated cohesionless soils, it cannot be used. This is a disadvantage of auger boring. And next, we come into across is different types of foundation, right? Okay, different types of foundations we can see. uh, First we'll see this video. Foundations can be classified into two types, shallow foundations and deep foundations. Shallow foundations means the lateral dimension is less compared to the uh, lateral dimension is more compared to the depth. And a deep foundation is means the diameter, the lateral dimension is less, but depth is more. Right. This is called. What's this? Sorry. Shallow foundations are spread foundation footing, combined footing, raft footing, grillage footing, right? So spread footing means see like this footing is spread over the area. Combined footing means hello, yeah, tell me. No, no, no. This is a raft footing means the total area is covered in a single footing, right? So grillage footing, see iron plates are arranged. Deep foundations may be piles, caissons, or cofferdams. So very deep, it can go under the soil. See, these are the different pile foundations, pile footings. So this is a well foundation. This is underwater. These are underwater concreting foundation is going there. Coffer dams, these are temporary dams which are constructed to divert water from the construction site. This is a coffer dam. So work is going here. Yeah, there are two types of foundations what we have seen. Shallow foundation means foundation is said to be shallow when the depth of foundation is equal or less than the its width, right? Then shallow foundations are further classified into spread footing, grillage footing, and mat foundation or raft foundation. So spread footing means in this type of footing, spread is given to the foundation so that load on the structure is distributed on sufficient area of the soil. The angle of spread depends on the type of material used for construction, right? The maximum spread for brick masonry is 1.5 half is to 1 for lime concrete and 2/3 by is to 1 for the cement concrete 1 is to 1. It is given, right? So this is a spread footing is further classified into three types, right? Wall footing, RCC isolated column footing, and combined footing, right? So wall footing means wall footings are two types. One is simple and another is stepped or spread footing, right? Isolated column means they are used to support individual columns, simple, stepped or sloped or trapezoidal, uh, provided with a mat of reinforcement at bottom of footing, and such footings are called reinforced concrete footings as shown in figure this one, right? So isolated column footing. And combined footing means a common footing is provided for two or more columns is known as combined footing. This footing may be rectangular or trapezoidal uh, in plan. So to achieve uniform pressure distribution under the footing, the CG of the uh, footing area should coincide with the center of gravity of the loads of the two columns. This is the combined footing, right? So means two columns or two footings are combined, right? Combined footing. This footing is used for the following circumstances: when the column is very nearer to each other, when the bearing capacity of soil is less, when the end column is isolated nearer property line. So we use combined footing for that purpose. Next is raft foundation or mat foundation. Mat or raft foundation is such a foundation that covers the entire area under the structure and supports all columns. This foundation may have only RCC slab covering the entire area, or it may be a system of a slab and beam with the slab at bottom. This beam is plinth beam here and beam above it, plinth beam above it. So total area is covered with a RCC slab, that is called a mat foundation or a raft foundation, right? Raft foundation is kept projected outwards for a distance of 300 to 500 all around the structure, which remains embedded in soil and act as an anchorage to the structure in the foundation soil, right? See, this is offset which is provided for anchorage in the soil. This is a column, this is column. This area is provided extra to anchorage into the soil, right? This is a typical uh, total area is done with the mat footing or raft foundation, right? So it is suitable for when the safe bearing capacity of soil is very low, structural loads are heavy. The use of spread footing would cover more than half of the building area. Then you will go for raft foundation, where the soil mass contains compressible lenses, so that the differential settlement is difficult to control, right? So in that circumstances, you will see the this type of footings, right? So I'll try to see one very small video. Yeah, yeah, only 2 minutes. Oh, 11 minutes video. No, this we can see tomorrow. So because we don't have time to see this, so we'll close this session. So tomorrow we'll try to see this video. Right. What you have seen is a detailed classification of buildings and soil exploration. What is soil exploration? What are the objectives of soil exploration and different methods of soil exploration we have seen, and advantages and disadvantages of auger boring we have seen. and we have already seen the different types of foundations and what are the different types of footings also we have seen. So these are the some questions which arise from this chapter: classification of buildings, soil exploration, objectives of soil exploration, state the classification of shallow foundations, briefly explain the construction of raft foundation. Right. So this is the end of the soil slide. Then tomorrow we'll discuss further. Until then,